Dr. Johnson talked about three types of people that his teacher talked about. There's two types of people in this world. Those that think you can divide people into two categories, and those that don't put people into two categories. We typically have two types of people that are pursuing an accounting emphasis. I think all of you are pursuing accounting emphasis, but some of you won't make that choice. So we typically have two types that are, some of those people are working in the accounting field already and want to advance, have an undergraduate degree in accounting, stuff like that. Other people want to transition into the field of accounting, and they're trying to use their MBA program to do as much of that coursework that they need to actually be able to work in the accounting field. There's different types of careers that you can have in accounting. One would be a bookkeeper or an accounting clerk. We're not preparing people with an MBA to do that type of work. Typically you need a high school diploma, associate degree from someone like Trident Tech to do that type of work. It's not the type of work that you would need a college degree in order to do. Those type of people, for a small business, may be entering information into QuickBooks or that kind of thing. So we're not preparing people at the MBA level to do that type of work. In terms of just a general accountant, typically you have to have a college degree with the equivalent of a major in accounting to work in those types of fields. Again, many people will come into our MBA program and they're wanting to get into the accounting field, so they're using the MBA to get a lot of those accounting courses. And you can do that with our MBA. You get a lot of accounting courses and move into a field where you're working as an accountant. And every organization of any size is going to have accountants. You might be working for a manufacturing company, for a bank, for a retail company, small company, large company, Fortune 500 company. I mean, all organizations have accountants, and there's lots of different areas that you could work in. You could work in an area where you're supervising a lot of these accounting clerks. Accounting clerks might be responsible for doing accounting entries in one area, like accounts payable or accounts receivable or inventory, something like that. The accountants at a company may be supervising several of those people, so they may be in charge of accounts receivable, may be in charge of accounts payable. But there's other areas where accountants work in organizations. They may work in internal audit, where they're actually doing a lot of the internal audit functions in an organization. You might have the chief financial officer or the controller who's the head accountant. Many of those types of people come out of an accounting background. So most organizations have people that work in the accounting field. Many people come to our MBA program trying to become a certified public accountant. Every state has its own law. Professions are governed by state law. So if you're a doctor or a nurse, a pharmacist, you're governed by the law of the state in which you're working. Profession of public accounting is no different. Law for being a CPA in South Carolina would be different from Florida or Tennessee or Georgia or anywhere you might want to practice. In South Carolina, you have to have, and every state now requires 150 hours of coursework, college level or graduate level, whatever it might be, in order to become a CPA. There's still a state here and there that don't require 150 hours, but most states require 150 hours. In South Carolina, it's specified that you have to have 36 hours of regular business courses and then 36 hours of accounting courses in that 150 hours in order to become a CPA. So if you've got an undergraduate degree in business, you've got 36 hours of business, but you may not have taken any more than 6 or 9 hours in accounting. So you're a long way from that 36 hours if you're trying to go the CPA route and you don't have an accounting undergraduate degree. If you've got an undergraduate degree in accounting, you probably have 24, 27 hours of accounting courses as an undergraduate. So you'll need a few more hours that you could get into an MBA program to get up to that 36 hours in accounting. So again, we have a lot of people that are coming, trying to get to this point, and we'll have to give you a lot of advice as to how far away you are from that. So I talk to a lot of the people that are trying to go the accounting route, try to figure out what they're trying to achieve. Now, people always want to know, what can I do with this? CPAs don't just work in public accounting. Kind of a typical career path for somebody that's a CPA is you go to work for a CPA firm for a relatively short number of years, and then one of your clients hires you away, and you end up going in the, kind of towards the CFO route in that organization. So you don't have to stay in public accounting. Many people use the public accounting route to get into higher level positions in organizations that they want to be in eventually. We have people coming out, going into these accounting type roles, in the $40,000 to $50,000 starting salary range, typically a CPA route, $50,000 to $60,000 starting salary range, and then as you move up in a CPA firm, your salary becomes more and more part of your client generation, and if you're moving up in the partner level, you start sharing in profits rather than just having salary. So there's probably a lot more upside to the salary potential to CPA than working in public accounting than just working for an individual company because of the profit sharing and stuff that you do. So I think the main thing I wanted to point out today is that we get more calls for people with accounting degrees than I know people to recommend. There's a lot of every time you look at where the jobs are, accounting is always one of the top careers where people are hiring. A lot of potential for getting a good job right out of school. If you're trying to transition into the accounting profession, an MBA can help you get there. What a lot of people don't realize is that if you want to take some of our accounting courses in the MBA program, you have to have had some prerequisite courses. So this is a list of the courses that we teach in the MBA program that are accounting courses. Rachel's already gone over Accounting 501 and 502. Those are prerequisite courses for the MBA program in effect. You've got to have had a financial accounting course and a managerial accounting course basically to be in the MBA program. We offer those prerequisite courses. Advanced Managerial Accounting 625 is a core class that everyone in the program takes. So that's 3 hours everybody has to take. These other courses are courses that can fit into your elective slots as accounting courses. Now, as you come down that list, you see some have asterisks by them. One of them has a plus sign by them. Those indicate what kind of prerequisites are required in addition to 501, 502, or Accounting 1 and Accounting 2 as an undergraduate. You don't have to have any more than Accounting 1 and 2 to take cost accounting, our tax courses, our financial statement analysis. But other than that, most of these courses require at least Intermediate Accounting 1, if not Intermediate Accounting 1 and 2. We do not teach Intermediate Accounting 1 and 2 at the graduate level. Those are basically junior level college courses that you have to take many of these. Intermediate Accounting 1 and 2 is the nuts and bolts of financial accounting. When you take fundamentals or principles of financial accounting, you get a little bit of exposure to income statements, balance sheets, what the elements are of those, how to account for some things. In Intermediate Accounting 1 and 2, you start drilling down into all of that information. So typically, the approach to Intermediate Accounting is you kind of start coming down the balance sheet. And so you start with cash, then talk about receivables, then talk about inventory, prepaid investments, those kinds of things. And you really get into a lot more detail about how to account for those items. And so if you've not been through Intermediate Accounting 1 and 2, you really don't have the background to be able to talk about how to audit an organization. If you haven't had Intermediate Accounting 1 and 2, it's really hard, or at least Intermediate Accounting 1, it's really hard to think about how to do governmental and nonprofit accounting if you haven't already had that background. You really can't talk much about, you can't talk about international accounting if you don't have a good grasp of U.S. GAAP that you get in Intermediate Accounting 1 and 2. So those courses are really necessary to be able to do a lot of the work in these upper level courses. Now, we've not been teaching Intermediate Accounting 1 and 2 in a format that's really very friendly for MBA students. We only teach those during the day. Again, we have limited resources at Charleston Southern. We can't teach every course in every format. We do teach Intermediate Accounting 1 and 2 maybe at 8 o'clock in the morning or around the noontime hour so that somebody might be able to come and take those courses during the day, but they're not taught at night, they're not taught online. If we had enough demand, we could see from people in the MBA program, people in the community to teach those courses at night or perhaps online, then we could begin to move in that direction. So if there's 10 of you that want to take intermediate accounting 1 at night this semester, and we knew that, we could come up with a section, but we can't do that for 2. So that's kind of where we are with those courses. And that's some of the biggest questions that Rachel has to field that she really doesn't know the answer to. She doesn't know in any great detail what it takes to be a CPA or much about the content of these kinds of courses. So you end up having to talk to somebody like me or Dr. Garner or somebody else who is a CPA that at least we pretend to know something about this, what it takes to be a CPA in South Carolina. So again, accounting is the first emphasis we're going to talk about. There's lots of areas that I just blew through that you could work in. The IRS is going to be hiring more and more people in accounting if our healthcare keeps going in the direction that it looks like it's going. The SEC, in terms of another government organization, not government organization, but organization that's approved by the government, allowed by the government, is going to be hiring more and more people as we go to different types of GAAP. The FBI hires more accounting people than any other field. Because they have to be able to go in and look at organizations and financial statements and understand what's going on. So there's a lot of governmental type jobs that you can get into that are accounting related. My dad is a minister. I thought at one time I was probably going to follow in his footsteps. And so when I was a high school senior talking about what to major in, my dad said if you want to be a pastor, you need to major in accounting. And I try to tell all our ministerial students that same thing. Not many of them listen to me, but what you end up doing is managing maybe $1 million nonprofit organization, and most pastors don't have any financial background, any kind of financial education, and you can get into some pretty complex financial situations when you're running nonprofits. At that point in my dad's career, you had a president who, Jimmy Carter was president, and interest rates were 21-22%. We had a big family life center behind our worship center, and they had financed that with variable rates, and they were having to pay 21-22% interest, and to borrow money to pay payroll at one time. And so the church ended up having to issue bonds that many of the church members bought at 10 or 12% interest in order to try to reduce the interest rate on that financing that they had. That's a complex situation that most pastors aren't used to dealing with. And so he spent a lot of time with CPAs trying to figure out how to refinance things, how to go about trying to issue bonds, how to deal with payroll situations. And so the accounting background gives you the background to be able to handle a lot of complex situations. You may learn of what a pension plan is in a management track. You have to learn how to account for pension plans in an accounting track. So you can go into a lot more detail. You hear people start talking about unfunded pension liabilities and things like that. You've gone through an accounting track, you understand what all that means, what the actuarial computations have to look like in order to come up with the estimated pension liability. And you just get into a lot more detail about a lot of business type transactions. So you're prepared to do a lot more than just work in the accounting field. So many CPAs have gone into the financial side of businesses that are running the financial side of organizations. I'm sure you're tired of listening to me, so I'm going to move on and let Rachel introduce our next speaker. Thank you for participating in our program. I am the dean. If you see me running around, I usually have a towel and I look a little more professional, but it's a Saturday.
Hey, next we have Dr. Marilyn Wyatt, and she is a professor of business administration and finance here. She teaches a lot of upper level and underground level finance courses, and she is a front runner in our quasi-core section. So if you take a quasi-core and you take it locally, you're probably going to run into her.
When I first started CSU 10 years ago, my previous teaching experience had been in Moscow. And I had been introduced to the entire faculty as our new professor from Russia. So it took about a half a year for the faculty and students to stop speaking slowly and loudly to me. And a few of them said, You know, your English is very good, but I can tell you're a foreigner. There's just something in the way you speak, and then I explained, well, I'm a damn Yankee, so that's most of my business experience has been out of country, and it was very, very enriching. Enjoyed it very, very much. It enabled me to get a lot of frequent flyer miles, which I'm still taking advantage of today. But my role here at CSU started in year 2000, and I'm often asked by students, well, what is finance? Why is it better than accounting? And I think it's better. Accounting is the grammar of business. You have to know accounting. There's just no way around it. But I believe that finance is the poetry. This is where I think you have a lot of fun. And I do believe that everyone works and lives in a world in which you're going to have financial consequences. Whether you're a private individual, you're taking out a mortgage, you need to know the consequences. You need to speak the speak in order to be a participant in the world. A lot of the choices we have entails identifying uncertain costs and benefits, things that are going to happen now and things that are going to happen in the future. And Rachel mentioned, as an economist, she mentioned the concept of opportunity cost. And this is what finance does. It really kind of teaches us, if we make a decision today, what am I giving up and what are going to be the consequences moving on? And the study of finance is going to enable decision makers, and that's who all of us are, to organize a thought process that allows us to make decisions not based on emotion or the moment, but to really measure for ourselves as private consumers, but certainly in the workplace, what are the consequences for my business or for my career. So it's basically the study of individuals and organizations. It's evaluating investments and how to raise capital to do the things we want to do. So when I start the first week of class, I want to get on those spreadsheets and start crunching numbers, but basically, what we do in finance is we take a look at what the long-term investments that we should be making as an organization. And how are we going to finance them? How are we going to raise the money? A lot of people say, well, we're just going to go to the bank and take a loan. Not necessarily true. We might use internal financing for that. And the biggest question is, how can we manage the cash flows in the day-to-day operations? And there's a very nice kind of cooperation between accountants and finance people, because the day-to-day organization of the firm is one of the primary tasks of business managers. So in finance, we get through the logic and the tools to help us meet those three main challenges in any business environment. Now, Darren Gerdes, who is our MBA director, he's going to talk about leadership, but I would encourage all of you to take advantage of office hours and our kind of communication through email. If you have questions about some of the opportunities in the field of finance, I'd be happy to point you in some directions. So, Darren, it's now your turn.